Hey, what's going on, Walking Dead fans? This is Calmfirenate, and we're here with another edition of Who Did Negan Kill? And the guy we're going to be talking about today is none other than Abraham Ford himself. The thing about Abraham is there seems to be a lot of reasons why he could be potentially the person that Negan kills, and not so much about reason why he's not. But I want to go on the record to say before I start this is that Abraham is my choice. He's the guy that I feel like is the most likely. Glenn, I think, is probably in there too, but I'm pretty sure Abraham is the guy that's going to get it. But let me start off right off the bat with the number one reason, and that's the fact that we already know that Walking Dead likes to sub in deaths. Well, in the comics at this point, Abraham's already dead. Abraham basically got subbed with Denise. Denise was the one who got shot with the arrow. In the comics, that's Abraham, and we know how the show likes to swap those out. So I feel like possibly they saved Abraham to swap him out for this moment. Robert Kirkman always talked about how he really hated killing Abraham that way. So I'm thinking that maybe he decided he'd wait to this moment to actually kill Abraham. That's my first point. The next point would be the fact that just too many good things are happening for Abraham right now. Like everything is good, everything's cool with Sasha, and he's, talking to Glenn about having a family, and he's thinking ahead. And all these things are kind of, coming up good for him, and we all know that that's usually when bad things happen to people. So it just kind of makes you feel like maybe, all that happiness is going to come to an end real soon. The other reason I also think was interesting was when Negan was walking by and he's picking, kind of walking by, looking over everybody. When he came across Abraham, Abraham actually stood up, got up on his knees. Like, yeah, go ahead. Like he was willing. And I'm not sure what was going through Negan's mind, but he might have saw that and said, you know what? Thank you. You made my job a lot easier. You look like you are one of those people that just are not going to be tamed. I'm just going to take you out right off the bat. Another good reason I think is in that episode you got to see a lot of closure with Eugene. There was been a big issue between him and Abraham for a while now, and they actually had some closure. They had that hug, and he told him, you're a survivor. They had that moment that was kind of nice. That kind of put that little, rift between them to bed. So that, again, is another reason why I think it could be Abraham. Another thing that's kind of going off the show a little bit, which I think is interesting, was there was a tweet that was made from Michael Cutlitz, who plays Abraham, to Josh McDermott, who plays Eugene, basically saying, hey, man, I had a great time working with you. I had a fun time, sort of thing. And the tweet came out roughly around the time they stopped filming, and then immediately was deleted. So anytime there's a tweet and then it gets deleted, people are like, what's up with that? That's kind of interesting. So I can't help from thinking that might have had something to do with it, but he could have just been like, hey, I had a good time with you. It could have had nothing to do with it. Or this could have alluded to the fact that maybe it was Eugene that got killed and was like, hey, man, sorry to see you go. It's you can kind of interpret it in many different ways. But in this case, I think that at least is something to think about when you're thinking about whether or not Abraham could have been the one that gets killed. Again, the storyline between him and Sasha, I think, possibly alludes to the fact that it could be Abraham, because for comic fans who have read the comic can see Sasha maybe taking the role of Holly in the comics. That would play out in next season, and I'm not going to talk about that, but for comic fans will know what I'm talking about. That kind of maybe seemed like maybe she's going to take that role, and that storyline is not really going to be possible without Abraham being dead. So I think that that's a possibility too. Now, those are all my reasons for it. Now, I'm going to try to give you a few reasons for it not being Abraham. But they're not as strong as my reasons for it. I mean, obviously, I think one reason is he's the person I'm picking, and I'm usually wrong. So that in itself could be a reason why this isn't him. Another thing is that he is a really good character. He's got these great one-liners. He's constantly just breaking up that kind of serious moments with some great little things he says that just kind of brings a real good atmosphere. And I'm not sure if they can sub out him and then put in another character, but his story, he doesn't have another storyline. His storyline is already over. So I'm not really sure what they're going to do with him. So that's a reason why, perhaps they decide to just kind of keep him around for those moments in the comics. Now, Abraham is such a big deal in the show. He's probably one of my favorite characters in the comics. So I'm not entirely sure, but in my mind, I would be really disappointed for him to be gone because I would love to have him for a longer period of time. But because he is such a character that can kind of, be subbed out at this point, I really feel like it is Abraham who's the one that gets it. So that's it, guys. That's really the only reasons against why it couldn't be Abraham. I mean, I'm putting money that it is on Abraham that is the one that gets killed. So with that being said, hey, what do you think? Do you think Abraham's the one that gets killed? Yes, no? What's your reasons? But next time, I'm going to do a video to talk about Miss Michonne herself, the love interest of Rick, and why that could be the one who also gets killed by Negan. But until next time, see you later.